Alright, so welcome back. It is Saturday morning and I'm going to do something a little touch different for y'all than normal on the channel. So we are going to go paint a truck. And we are going to do it just like y'all would do it at your house. So it's a little too big for like our paint booth. We are heading out of town, actually out of state. So to go help somebody out. And I'm gonna show y'all, go over a couple cool things. It's gonna be a single stage job and show y'all how you could do a single stage yourself. So here this morning in North Carolina, it is 73 and chances of tornadoes. Like the phone's been going off tornado warning. I think it's supposed to be tonight, get down to 26. So it's pretty crazy weather. I don't know if y'all have weather like this where you're from, but here our weather can be all over the place. Morning will be, you know, warm with tornadoes, and then the afternoon will give you 26s, and then I guess if it rained, that could possibly be snow flurries, right? I mean, if it was 26 and it did rain, that'd be pretty freaking crazy, but it's not calling for snow flurries, I'm just saying. Anyway, we have already got the paint gun. And we actually have to grab the GoPro, swing by the shop, grab all that, and then we're gonna head on out of town. And I will pick back up with y'all later on. So we just grabbed the GoPro and I get here and Ed's here working and Ed done knocked the power out. So North Chase, where our shop at, like nowhere has power and it is whipping. So she is whipping out here. The generators are on across the street because they actually have like a laboratory over there, but you can see the weather is not looking favorable here in North Carolina this morning at all. So, but all of this industrial park is out of power right now. So we're gonna slide on up the road and get out of town. All right, so here's what we got. We're gonna bang this out. The guy that actually is painting this, as you can see, he tried it himself. Now I done one of these in the past for him, and he tried it, messed it up, and then had me come out and paint it. And then he got the balls to try it again, which nothing's wrong with that. That's how you learn. But he said he wasn't going to waste material on it again for me just to come on out and spray it. That's the thing is when I first did my first job, I actually had posted it a little bit back on my Facebook, is trying to learn it yourself can get very expensive because you're wasting material, especially when you're doing a bigger job like this, and then you have to turn around and sand the whole thing. So it was orange pilly, as you can see, we went over in our other videos about highs and lows. So it has some orange peel, so then he had to turn around and sand everything back down after he attempted to paint it the first time. So we're gonna mix it up. I'm gonna show y'all what we're working with, and then we're gonna knock this thing out. We got 10 minutes flash times between each coat on this single stage, so we're literally gonna be on the money and just pound this thing out and get back to the house. So what we're shooting is we're shooting an Eastwood single stage urethane. Eastwood sells a lot of DIY projects, cater towards people that are doing it at their house in their garage. It's good. You don't see a lot of the big body shops or anybody like that using Eastwood projects. This is more for like, you know, restoration work that you're taking on yourself. So you can get on their website. This is the part number for the stuff we're using and the color. I'll show you after we wet it out. We're going to do 2 coats of single stage to achieve our color. It's basically the same as laying a base coat. If you do a base coat, clear coat, it's the same thing, honestly. Your single stage, all it is a base coat, and you have your single stage activator that goes into it, and then they do not recommend a reducer in it. And then after that, we're coming back over top of it with a premium show clear, also from Eastwood. Let's see, I don't see no part number on it, but that's what it is if you get on their website and look it up. So that's what we're gonna be using. We're gonna get this mixed up and dive right into first coat. He's already prepped it. If you do mess up a job and you have to redo it, I would just recommend, you know, knocking down all your orange peel with like 180 and then finishing out with like a 320 to get it smooth. And then after that, you know, you can reshoot the job. You're going to do 3 to 1 to 1. So just like we went over in all of our other videos, I went to the 5 line on your actual single stage, and then you'll go to your next 5 line on your activator, and then I split my reducer because it doesn't say anything about reducer on the actual cans, and I don't have good internet here to check the data sheet, but it did mention on the clear can, you know, a half, so I just went and split it half, and the consistency of that looks really good just for me having experience painting. Like it's not too thick at all, so I think this is gonna lay out beautifully. I'm gonna get it loaded in a gun, throw y'all on my head, and we're gonna bang this out on time lapse. That's your first coat. On your first coat, when you're spraying this stuff, let me see if I can go to the other side to show you a little better. With stuff like that, you don't want full coverage. If you get full coverage on your first coat, you're going to run it. So you don't want full coverage. You just want to get a good tack coat. What that does is putting a wet coat that's laid down, and it gives something for all the other coats to stick to. Basically, when you first put your first coat on there, it just wants to fall off and run off because it has nothing sticky. When you spray your first coat down, then it builds up for all your other coats something to cling to. Now, you can still run your other coats, obviously, but your first coat, you just don't even want to even attempt to get full coverage. And it's going to take, it even says, I mean, you can see the red through there. It even says on the can, 2 to 3 coats or more to achieve full coverage. So that's their way of telling you, don't be trying to shoot this thing right out the gate on full coverage. So you can see more red down there. On my next pass, I'm going to have to make sure that I get low. When you got step bars and stuff like this in the way, you really got to make sure you get low. And before you move into your clear coat, if I don't tell you later, I'm going to tell you now, make sure you take a light over everything and just kind of, even if it's a light from your phone, and just check everything. But this thing's going to hit hard in the sun. I mean, you can see how hard the metallics already are hitting. But that's the first coat. We're about to pound the second coat on. you're ever doing something this big on your roof, like there's literally with the bars, how far you have to reach. Let's see here. By the time, you know, you put your ladder there, how far you have to reach to the center, it's like humanly impossible. So on the the roof, sometimes you just have to extend all the way out and basically dust it out there. Never try to blow directly at the panel, because if you puddle it, you're going to see it in the metallics. So you just want to kind of dust the metallics out there and just let them settle. And as you're dusting it, you know, just keep it moving, and then watch the metallics for it to just turn to the wet look. As soon as it turns to the wet look, then you can start pulling it in. But sometimes I know it's really hard to reach on a project. Just make sure you're never like shooting directly at the panel. Just dust it and let it wet out until, you know, keep dusting until it wets out and then pull it in. If you were to try to do this, these kits are about 140 to 160, somewhere in there. If you were to try to do this yourself and not put your clear coat on it, that's what we were just talking about, it would be an absolute nightmare for somebody who is DIYing it at their house. I mean, you can see there's no reflection in that at all. And we've went over in my videos before about how you should see a reflection in the paint to a certain extent. You can see right there how dull it is. That's because I can't wet this out. So if I was to really wet this out where it shined a lot, then you would literally like have runs, and the metallics would start sagging, and just basically they go on like this, and then they just start pulling down a little. So they just look distorted because they're not standing up on their side. So a metallic is basically like your kid's glitter. A metallic is two-sided, so whenever it hits, it sticks into the paint and it stands up basically. It looks like crap when it gets so wet that then it lays down flat into the paint, and then when it hits the paint and then it lays down, then you can start to see it pull and it just looks distorted. A pearl is like 3 or 5-sided. It's basically like a grain of sugar or salt. It's basically round. That's the reason why you can like wet out pearls, and they're a lot finer because they don't stand up. So your metallic stands up, and on your last coat of your metallic, like once we get this one wet out, on this last coat for coverage, I make sure I got coverage, I'll go back over this and dust it and make it almost kind of like fuzzy to stand, you know, one pass of metallics up on their sides. All right, so we just sprayed the third coat, and I set the timer for 10 minutes as soon as I got off of the cab, and now I'm at about 5 minutes left. What you're looking for is you're looking for this. When you touch it, you can see how it's stringy. Okay, see how it's pulling strings? That means it's still tacking. That's what we're looking for. Whereas some of this back here is fingerprinting, but it's not pulling strings. Okay, so this back is setting up pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and blow a metallic coat over everything so that the metallic stands on its edge, and then hopefully this the metallic coat will still melt in to the clear some. I don't want to wait for it to be too dry to stand my metallics up, but that's what you're looking for. Once this doesn't pull strings anymore, when you touch it and it doesn't pull strings, that's when you can run your next coat and not have to worry so much about anything running. If it's still pulling stringies, then that's when it's still not cured enough where it's not necessarily going to run. So that's a good way you can test, make sure you're touching your tape, obviously not something you painted. But all we're going to do now is take a real quick and just dust over everything basically. Like really quick, just dust it over to just get a metallic coat on it. All right, so we got that finished. That's the final coat. I didn't show y'all the first, second, or third coat of clear or anything because it's just boring. Like nobody really wants to watch that. Showed you the interesting stuff. We did put a signature in it, so we ran it right here, and as you can see, when the light hits it just right, when you run certain things, especially high metallic like this, it actually pulled some of the metallic with it. So we'll go back and cut and buff this all out. There's a bar that actually bolts on here and goes over this whole entire piece that covers it up. We'll be able to get all this run out, but sadly the pulled metallics in there will stay. But I mean, under, you know, when the light's on it and everything, you don't, at a certain angle, you don't see it. Like you don't even see it from there. But that's part of it. If you were doing this at your house and you wanted to fix that, then you would have to sand and repaint this door and this door to fix that. But he gets decals put over the side, and then of course it's going to get scratches, and it's probably not going to get washed a ton like you would a normal vehicle. So it's not the end of the world on something like this. And then over here, we had another small sag. You can't hardly see it in the light. It's kind of harder. But there's one there and one there, and they did not pull the metallics because you can see how these are more of a sag. A head has not formed on it, so it hasn't really turned into a run quite yet. So it didn't pull the metallics. It just sagged up where it started to get heavy. But besides that, it looks extremely good. So that's definitely a kit that you can pick up if you put in that number on their website, on Eastwood's website, and you could do this do this yourself at your house. I mean, it's not terrible. And you'd rather have some runs in it, honestly, especially if you're a beginner doing it yourself. You can cut and buff them runs out, but you don't want orange peel everywhere, because if you have orange peel everywhere and the whole paint job looks like basketball then textured, then that's going to be an absolute nightmare to cut and buff out. You'd be better just to repaint it. So be proud of yourself if it lays out like glass or lays out pretty good on the texture, and then you just put a couple runs, because them are real simple to take out. They're not the end of the world. So that's going to be a wrap on this quick video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share, and we'll catch you on the next one.